So I guess it's no surprise to anyone here, right? Having a baby can be quite expensive. The question is, how expensive? So when I started doing some research to see what we would need and want to buy for the arrival of our girl, I was astounded at the number of items that were put in front of my eyes, mainly in the form of advertising through social media, but also in real life. We did go to a few baby shows to try and suss out what was out there. And oh my goodness, there is so much. So in our case, I kind of always had in mind this, let's just buy what we really think we need and then we'll see along the way. I didn't want to buy everything that was available under the sun. And don't get me wrong, some of those gadgets that you can find for babies or for families are absolutely great. They seem like they could answer so many parents' problems and be so helpful. But here's the thing. Until you actually are faced with a situation where you recognize there is a problem or there is a need for a solution, how are you to know that you will need that solution or that you will face this problem? So obviously I wanted to make sure that we would get the essentials for our girl. And as time went along and we would face new challenges with our girl, we would decide whether or not we need something else to help us through a certain period of time. And that is also essential to remember. Some of those things that you can find on the market, actually a lot of things that you'll buy for a baby, will have a time restraint on it. You will only use those things for a certain amount of time. That is absolutely normal, but then that's when you have to think, do I want to buy it? Can I borrow it from someone? Or can I rent it? Or do I actually really need it? So every situation is a little bit different, right? Every baby is different, every family is different. Whether you are welcoming this baby with your partner, or you are co-parenting or a single parent. If you already have a baby at home or a toddler, or you don't, if you're living with other family members, all of those will affect what you may or may not need for the arrival of your baby. So I think it's quite important that you don't take the advice that I'm going to give you today to complete face value. You may want to think about it, do a bit of research for yourself, and figure out whether those essentials and not so essential items are actually within those categories for you. So let's start with the items that were essential to us, and I am so glad that I did get for our girl. So I think the most important one is a safe space for your baby to sleep in. If you already have a child, or if you've already had this discussion with your midwife, you'll know this, and you'll know that you may be able to get what is called a peppy pod. So the first item that we bought, and that was probably a bit of a gamble because obviously we were still expecting, we didn't know how the sleeping arrangements would work for us, but we decided to go with this. So this is pretty much something that really resembles the peppy pod that you can get from Blanket. But the reason why we got this is anything that we buy, I try and make sure that it could serve more than one purpose. So yes, it was going to be a safe space for our girl to sleep in during the night, but it will also be something that I could take around the house and potentially put on the couch and have her in there and make sure that she couldn't roll off and fall. We could also take it with us when we potentially went to meet some friends at their place and, prop it on one of their beds or the couch and she could sleep there. So talking about sleeping arrangements, and I know some people will probably frown upon this and tell me that this is not safe, etc. But it just worked for us. This item, we ended up using in our bed. Now, we did have a bassinet for our girl, and that bassinet, just for reference, I made sure that we got one that had a side that would come down so that we could put it completely against our bed, which meant that I didn't have to completely stand up from the bed to go and pick up my girl when she needed to be fed or needed to be comforted. But what happened is our girl unfortunately didn't like being in her bassinet for probably a couple of months. So we ended up moving that little item and between my husband and I, between our pillows. It would have taken either of us lunging at her to actually get past that little cushion that's around her when she sleeps. So another item that I'm really glad that we got for our girl is a baby bouncer. Now, I didn't get one before she arrived. We didn't think that she would need it really early on, so we thought, that's fine, we'll just get it later on. But I think it would have been much easier for me in early postpartum if I had had it. So the reason for that is, like I said, my girl didn't like to be sleeping in her bassinet for a couple of months. Well, she actually didn't like to be lying down, unfortunately. There are a few factors that, came into this. Essentially, she would contact nap pretty much all day long, which, while it can be quite cute, it's also not very practical because life. So when we did get the little bouncer, I was able to actually put her in there and do a few things around the house or, around the room with her. And she was just happy looking around and just cooing. She did fall asleep in it. Now, I know, babies are not supposed to fall asleep in it. But like I said, she didn't like lying down, and unfortunately, I was just not able to do all of the naps as contact naps, because let's be honest, in very early postpartum, babies sleep a lot. Now, another item that I think was essential, and I truly believe that it is an essential for everyone, the only thing is which one will be the best for you, is some sort of a baby carrier. So I had decided that we would get a baby wrap. You know, based on the research that I had done and my own beliefs, I preferred that option, at least for the very early stages. And my girl loved it. The only thing is I probably should have been using it a little bit more around the house, not just when going out. Like, she would be in it when we would go out for a walk and absolutely love it. She would just fall asleep on me, no issue. I didn't use it enough in the house, and that could have helped me earlier on, you know, to be doing a few things around the house while she would be on me, happy, falling asleep, having a breastfeed, anything like that. Now, as she grew up and my husband would be more involved with actually carrying her, we did end up buying a baby carrier because he didn't feel as comfortable with the wrap. I don't know, I think he felt it was, one, not quite easy to put on because you do need to get used to it, know how tight you need to wrap it, and you know, the knots and everything, where a baby carrier is just put the slings on, clip, clip, you're done. But I do have to say that for us, the baby carrier was amazing, at least for the early postpartum when, you know, baby is supposed to have their legs underneath them, not dangling yet, and all of that. In my case, I actually used that wrap for a very long time. Even when she was able to move to facing forward, she was quite happy sitting in that wrap with me. I do have to say, as she got a bit older and heavier, it was a little bit better to start using the baby carrier, because one, she would wiggle a bit more and want to get out of it and come back in, and that would, you know, be a little bit easier to just unclip the carrier, take her out, take her back in. But also her weight in the baby wrap meant that I had to readjust the wrap on a regular basis because it's a stretchy fabric, and after a while it just, you know, starts hanging a bit lower than it should be, and it starts being a bit uncomfortable for the carrier at least. All right, and one of the last items for baby that I thought was essential was a sleeping device. Because my baby didn't like being on her back, lying down completely flat, we researched everything we could to try and find a solution. Obviously, there were other issues that we fixed on the side, but one thing that ended up working pretty well that we figured out was that she quite liked the vibration. So I'm guessing, you know, being against us breathing, felt like a little bit of movement, a little bit of vibration. So we did find this little item that you put in the bed, and it just has that very light vibration that's applied to the mattress of the bed or the bassinet or whatever your baby is sleeping in. And that did help us. Now, it only helped us for a little while though. So would I recommend buying it? Maybe not. If you're able, or at least if you're able to buy it secondhand, that would probably be handy. Or if you're able to borrow it or rent it. I don't know if you can rent anything like that, but you know, why not? The other device that we did buy and that we're still using today, so that one, yes, absolutely, is a white noise machine that has a little light. I guess not all babies like white noise or a lullaby or anything to sleep, but most babies do like some sort of sound because it just reminds them of, you know, being in a belly and just hearing sound that's a bit muffled. That is something that we have used very early on and we still use today. And so now moving to the essentials for mom, because that's right. We tend to forget about the fact that mom will need some things too, right? I think it was probably about a month pre-delivery date when I realized, hang on a second, we've got pretty much everything we need for our girl. Am I gonna need stuff? Yes, probably. So I started doing some research, and obviously I was going to breastfeed, so I guess one of the most important one in that case is having a good breastfeeding bra. A few good breastfeeding bras, to be honest. Now, I'm not saying that they have to be super expensive, but they have to be comfortable and still supporting, because I don't think that there's anything worse than having a bra that doesn't feel supportive and that's just, you know, loose and moving around, especially when you have to handle a baby for most of your day. In that same category, I would strongly recommend some nipple cream because, ouch. Now, I know everyone will tell you that breastfeeding is not supposed to be painful. Well, that might be true, but I don't think it is true for at least the first few weeks because your skin is not used to it yet. So yes, there will be some cracks, there will be some discomfort. A nipple cream was a relief for me. Now, I think it's also really important that we talk about the essentials for, you know, the technical part of giving birth. especially if you're going to have a natural birth. Now, I didn't have a C-section, so I cannot help you if you're going for an elective C-section, unfortunately. So if you're a mom watching this and you've had a C-section, if you're a midwife, a doula, and you can help those moms, please, please, please put a comment down there and let them know what you think is really good for them. But for a natural birth, there were a couple of things that I am so glad that I had. Number one is the peri bottle. Now, I think no matter how the birth is actually going and whether you are needing some stitches or not, it's just not going to be very comfortable down there for quite some time. So, when you do have to use the bathroom, I think it's a really good idea to have one of those peri bottles. It will make a huge difference, I can tell you. So when I did research a peri bottle, because it was absolutely an essential for me, I did find a company that would have a couple of extras with it. So one of them was like an ice pad. So there are different ways that you can go about it. So the ones that I did get were little ice pads that you put in a pocket and you put that in your underwear, to try and calm any discomfort that you may have. There is a DIY way to do this. I think it's putting some aloe vera gel in maternity pads and closing them back and putting that in the freezer. I thought it was great to have something that was just easy. I didn't have to prepare it. I would just have to chuck it in the freezer, take it out, chuck it back in the freezer. Done. So I love that. And that also came with a witch hazel spray, which I really liked. And so that really helped with any sting discomfort when using the bathroom. So I think we can't close this section of the must-haves without talking about nutrition. Now, of course, if you're planning to breastfeed, you already know that you will need to be eating quite nutritious food and quite a bit of it. In all honesty, once baby is here, making food, preparing food for yourself is not going to be really easy. It takes time to get a hang of, a new routine, figuring out how and when you can prep food and when you need to eat. So I think one good thing would be to, one, have some meals ready in the freezer. So there are a few ways to go about this. Let's say your friends and family are asking you what you would like for your postpartum, what you would need for when baby comes, baby shower, for example, or when they come and visit you. A meal is probably the best thing that anyone can offer you. A meal that you can put in the freezer and have whenever you need it. Another way to do this is while you are still expecting and you are making dinner. Let's say you're making some lasagna, or you're making some mac and cheese or shepherd's pie, anything like that. There are a lot of meals out there that are really easy to freeze. So I would just recommend making double the recipe, portioning it out, put it in the freezer for later. And finally, if you would like, I do have a meal guide for busy parents or expecting parents with tons of recipes that are either completely ready to just defrost and put on a table, or that need just a tiny bit more extra love to be, ready to serve. And it also has a few snacks, because snacks will be your lifesavers when you're postpartum breastfeeding. Trust me, some days, unfortunately, even the freezer meals, you'll find hard to find time to actually put them together, put them in the oven, and just simply eat them while they're hot. So any snacks will be of great help. Now, obviously, there are also some snacks that are really good in, supermarkets that you can buy and just stock upon. So if that's something that you're looking into, I would recommend going for snacks that are going to help you with the milk production. And for that, you could look into snacks that are based with oats, for example. But you also want to make sure that you get quite a lot of protein. So, for example, protein bars, fool's bowls, and things like that. And of course, you have those little snacks that, you can make and just put in the fridge for a few days for yourself, like a boiled egg, or, having just a tin of tuna. Sometimes if that's all you have time for, it's better than nothing. Now let's move on to the things that would just keep popping up on my feeds and ads, and etc., that I think are a little bit overrated. And I think the first one and easiest one to recognize is the tons of cute outfits for baby. Now, don't get me wrong. Those photos of your baby in its cute little outfit with a nice background, they sound amazing. Are they realistic? Not always. In reality, your baby will be living in onesies or pajamas for the majority of the time, for the first couple of months, I'd say. And most of those very cute outfits are actually quite hard to get baby into because of the type of buttons or clothing that they have, or because they're not real comfortable for the baby. So I'd say just have a couple, take those cute pictures, and that's it. The second one that came up, and that might be because I had a winter baby, is a wipes warmer. The idea itself made sense to me because yes, for some time my girl was not happy with any nappy change because it was winter. So, the wipes would be quite cool against her skin. What we had to do was, have the wipes have a glass of warm water. So we had to go and get warm water every time we had to change her. But in the end, that time where she didn't like being changed with wipes that were not warm only lasted probably a month and a half. Those wipe warmers are not cheap. So let's just say that for 4 to 6 weeks, that might be a bit of an overkill. I know it wasn't always practical to have warm water next to the table and, be able to do all of that quickly when she needed to be changed, but I really don't think that it would have been worth spending money on a wipe warmer. Something else that I did see come up quite regularly is a sterilizer. Now, of course, because I decided to breastfeed, we knew that we wouldn't have lots of bottles to go through every day. We started giving a bottle of express milk to my girl rather early on, but it was just one every 24 hours. So essentially that's the only bottle we had to clean, sterilize for her. We did introduce a pacifier to her as well, so that needed to be cleaned and sterilized regularly. And there were, the little toys that she would put in her mouth and things like that. Now, if you intend on giving the bottle to your baby, maybe a sterilizer is a good idea. In our case, it would have been an overkill. We simply used a boiling water method. So at all time, we would have on the stove a big pot. We would put the water, put whatever needed to be sterilized in there, bring it to a boil for 5 minutes, turn it off, let it cool a little bit so we could grab it, take it out, dries really quickly when it's hot, and just use it again. That simple. So, sterilizers could be good, but if you really don't think that you're gonna have a whole lot of bottles for a 24-hour period, they're quite expensive, they're bulky. In our case, didn't need them, would not have been a good spend of our money. One thing that I did see come up quite regularly once I started looking for things for mom, postpartum, were adult diapers. Now, I understand the concept of them. I just don't feel like they're necessary after birth. When you come out of hospital, you will probably be able to take with you quite a few of those mesh undies. That with your normal panties and maternity pads, which can be found in supermarkets. Perfect. After that, I personally use some period panties. Comfortable, easy to find. They don't have to be the expensive kind. I'm pretty sure that I got mine from Kmart. So the good thing about those is they are reusable. You put them in the washing machine, done. But they also feel quite comfortable because they come up usually a little bit higher and it gives a bit of support to your tummy, which is something that's quite nice after giving birth. So here's the list of things that I thought were really essential for us, and I'm so glad that I did get. And the things that I may have considered but decided not to get, and it was absolutely fine. Because I do remember, going through all of those choices and ideas and feeling like I just want to make sure that whatever we decide to get, we are able to have with us at all time, and they are practical, yes, but they don't become a problem if we don't have them. So I'll just give you a quick example of that. I remember this seeing that pram that was super flash, and it had this little attachment to it that would, rock the pram on its own. Now, when you think about it, you can imagine yourself sitting at a cafe with your husband, with your family, with your friends, whatever, and having baby being rocked by the pram itself. Awesome, baby falls asleep, you're sweet, you're having a nice time out there. What happens when you don't have that pram for whatever reason? You're traveling around, or, as baby grows up a little bit, you may be taking the other car, the pram's not there, you have a smaller, simpler pram, whatever happens. Is it going to make everything a lot more harder to get baby to fall asleep in that pram? Or are you going to have to work 10 times harder by rocking baby for hours on end to make sure that he stays asleep in there? I apologize for the difference in sound. My mic has just died on me, so I'll just finish this without the mic. So I think it's just a good reminder that yes, you do want to get the essentials for, when baby arrives, and you want to have those ready prior to baby being here. But for the rest, whatever you're considering and looking into, do your research. Have a look at the different types of items, the pricing, the brands, what they do, what they don't do. I would strongly recommend, like we did, to maybe have a look at items that could serve more than one purpose, which we are still doing today when our girl is a toddler. We have things that have more than one use. But let's just say that once you have that, have options to, look into buying, renting, borrowing those items. But I recommend not rushing into the decision. Let's just wait and see if you actually do need those. You know, maybe you won't. Maybe your baby won't have any problem with sleeping without any gadget. Or maybe you will not feel the need to have certain items for yourself. So let's maybe not waste money on stuff that we may not need and will probably end up in a closet somewhere for months, maybe years to come. Don't forget to also check with your hospital what you can take with you, because I can tell you right now there's a lot of things on that little tray that's next to you that you can actually take with you, and that usually includes the diapers for your baby, some maternity pads for you, those mesh undies, and there might be other things too. So take it home. It's free. You'll probably use it at some point. Now, of course, I do think that it is important to ask other mums around you, what did they use, what did they not use, what would they recommend. But just remember that every situation, every baby is a little bit different. So I really hope that this video helped you. I would love to hear from you. If you have any recommendations, any feedback on items that you thought were absolutely essential to your postpartum journey, or the things that you bought and thought, actually I could have done without, or actually never used, please drop them in the comments down below. If you found this video helpful, I would love for you to like and subscribe for more real talk and real motherhood content. Thank you for watching.